We are getting down to the wire. For those of you wanting to purchase an 80% receiver or similar gun making kit before ATF 2021R-05 goes in effect. This new rule came about as one of Biden's gun control policies, which specifically targeted so-called ghost guns. A ghost gun is a media-created term used to describe a homemade firearm that doesn't have a serial number on it. Although I am going to continue to use the term ghost gun in this video, so not to create any kind of confusion, just know that is their term, not mine. So under this new rule, ATF is now going to refer to ghost guns as privately manufactured firearms, or PMFs, which is defined as a firearm including a frame or receiver completed, assembled, or otherwise produced by a person other than a licensed manufacturer and without a serial number placed by a licensed manufacturer at the time the firearm was produced. Ghost guns are typically made by purchasing an unfinished receiver, commonly referred to as an 80% receiver or some other kind of gun making kit. These types of products can be purchased on the internet and shipped directly to the purchaser's home, where they will have to finish milling the receiver before it can function as part of a firearm. Currently, 80% receivers do not fall under the definition of a firearm and therefore do not require a serial number or a background check to be completed. However, this all changes on August the 24th of 2022. When ATF's 2021R-05 goes into effect, it is going to modify the definition of a firearm to include weapon part kit that is designed to or may be readily completed, assembled, restored, or otherwise converted to expel a projectile by the action of an explosive. It is also going to modify the definition of a firearm frame or receiver to include a partially complete, disassembled, or non-functional frame or receiver that has reached a stage in manufacture where it may quickly and readily be made to function as a frame or receiver. There are other things that ATF 2021R-05 changes that are mainly dealing with marking requirements, defining the term gunsmith, and dealing with record retentions for FFLs that I'm not going to cover in this video. But there is one thing I want those of you who already have a PMF to know. If you take that PMF to an FFL on or after August 24th, 2022 for service, and you leave it in that FFL's possession, requiring them to log it into their inventory, they will now be required under the law to put a serial number on that PMF within 7 days of taking possession of it. So don't be surprised when you find something new on your PMF when you get it back from that FFL. Now, I'm not saying you can't still make your own firearms, but if you want to make one by purchasing a 80% receiver, you are no longer going to be able to buy one on the internet and have it shipped directly to your house. Instead, you will now be required to have it shipped to an FFL, and you will have to go through the exact same procedures you would to buy a completed firearm before you can take possession of that unfinished receiver. Also, don't forget, it will now have a serial number on it that can be traced back to you. To wrap up this brief video on ATF's newest attack on the Second Amendment, I want to leave you with one final thought. This rule change came about as a way for law enforcement to be able to trace firearms used in crimes. Do you really think that criminals are taking the time to manufacture their own firearms to use in crimes? No, absolutely not. These criminals are using stolen guns that they get by breaking into cars and homes to commit more crimes. So I'm anxious to see how this rule is really going to help lower the crime rate and also allow law enforcement to be able to trace the firearm back to the criminal that committed the crime when they find a firearm at the scene of a crime. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If so, share it with your friends and family. Also, don't forget to click on the subscribe button if you haven't already done so.